Hello friends, welcome back to another tasting with me. Today we're going to be checking out one that is one I tried for the first time not so long ago, but has quickly become a new favorite of mine. So this is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch B520. We'll be talking about what that means in the context of these releases, but this is from Heaven Hill, and it is from their mash bill of 78% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malt barley. So a rye, but not terrifically high rye mash bill. Um, those of you who've read my reviews on Malt Review, and for those of you that haven't seen the site, that's www.malt-review.com, will know that I'm a big Heaven Hill fan. Evan Williams Black Label for many years, and now Evan Williams Bottled and Bond are kind of my go-to house whiskeys. I got a lot of time for that distillery and many of the expressions they put out. That said, though, I was not really a huge fan of your standard Elijah Craig small batch, which comes to us at 94 proof, and I felt it was underpowered and not sufficiently flavorful for what is a kind of a relatively premium price against what else you've got on the shelf with those same specs. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I tried Elijah Craig Barrel Proof for the first time, and wowie. So that was batch A120, A120. Maybe it's time we talk about this code. So there are three batches of this year, and the first letter in that code is A, B, or C for the first batch, the second batch, or the third batch. The second number is for the month of release. So these have typically been done in January, May, and September. So that's either 1, 5, or 9, corresponding to those three. And then finally, you've got the year. So 20, obviously 2020. So for example, the one we have today, B520, is the second batch of the year, released in May of 2020. There you go. As I joked in my first review, you do not have to be a Bletchley Park level cryptographer to be able to figure this stuff out, but it does take some explaining. And then, the other thing about these is, so barrel entry proof is 125 for Heaven Hill, and these are pretty all over the map in terms of the proof they end up at. So you've seen them come in at a low of 122.2 proof, so 61 odd percent ABV. That was batch B519. B519, and then you had them all the way up to 140.2, so over 70% ABV, and that was batch C914. So this one is kind of in the middle-ish there, maybe a little bit below the middle of that range. So you've got 127.2 proof or 63.6% ABV. Now, I've not diluted this at all, added any water, so you're going to be getting my straight opinion on this, no pun intended. But what else? I mean, the barrel proof offerings are some of my favorites. I love that you're getting closer to the origins of the whiskey. I love that you're not getting dilution, you're not getting chill filtration in this case. This is just coming to you straight from the barrel, and that's what I like about it. I like whiskey in its natural state. The less you're doing to it, the better, in my opinion. So that lack of dilution, that lack of chill filtration, just all that stuff that lets those textures and flavors remain in there is a-okay by me. So I'm gonna give this a sniff and a smell and a taste. And again, my review of the prior batches on the internet, but if you know anything about batch whiskey or have tasted enough about them, they can really vary. I mean, there's not as much consistency from batch to batch as you might think, particularly given the stringency of quality control at a lot of these big distilleries, and that's part of the fun, but also part of the challenge. I mean, you can get a really great one, but there's no guaranteeing that the one you have now will be as good as the one you just had. So, what else about this price? I paid $70 for this. I had done a poll on Twitter, and I said to people, what do you pay for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof? And it was all over the map, but average, it ended up being about $60 a bottle. You don't see it often for that amount in my area, but you do see it for quite a bit more. So I've seen these marked up to $90, $100, $120, and I would beg you, please don't go pay that, because you're enriching the type of person who doesn't deserve to be enriched if they're marking it up that far above MSRP. But let's go ahead and get into this. Oh, maybe color first. Here you go. You can see this is nice and dark, sort of chestnut, auburn, just beautiful color. And oh, sorry, very, very salient point. Although you can forgive me for forgetting it because they stick it here on the side of the bottle. This is 12 years old, you can see, which is a number that will be bittersweet to Elijah Craig fans. As you may be aware, the prior small batch had a 12-year age statement before they moved it to the back label as a precursor to unceremoniously removing it. So this is still 12 years old, and you're getting all that color that you would expect out of 12-year-old whiskey, and indeed all those aromas. So the thing I like about Heaven Hill is that there's, the expressions are so different, and I like some of them more than others, but there's this note that I always get consistently, and I'd love to eventually figure out where this is from. But it's like a combination of like clementines. It's like an orangey citrus fruit, but it's also like I always think of like wet pennies. There's kind of this metallic, kind of damp metallic note that doesn't sound like it'd be the most appealing thing, but it's comforting because it's always there, and I actually quite like it. It adds a kind of a tertiary nuance to the whiskey that is consistent again throughout. You can go all the way down to like Elijah Craig small batch. You can go down to Evan Williams Black Label, and all the way up to the fancy stuff, and it's there throughout. So yeah, a lot of wood on this one. I think more than I probably sensed on the prior batch that I tried, and not like necessarily an oak barrel, not a huge slap of vanilla, but like woodland flavors, like felled trees and twigs and leaves crunching underfoot and all that kind of stuff. It's very autumnal. Would not have expected this to come out in springtime. Yeah, some fudge, some really dense, like chocolatey flavors in there. Yeah, but again, this is like the George T. Stagg I had tried with y'all before. This is hard to nose. You're getting nose too far in there. It feels like you're burning your nose hairs because the proof is just so high. But like maybe a smoked sausage, like a kielbasa or something. I'm from Chicago, so we're very familiar with kielbasa, given our Polish population. But yeah, lots in there. So let's give it a try. Oranges straight away, just all over the front of the mouth, like it expands and coats the teeth, and it's just really like very specific, like a mandarin or a clementine or something. I'm chewing this around a little bit. Definitely high proof here. Feeling that burn on the top of the roof. I feel like all these like vapors are kind of caught right under the roof of the mouth. Yeah. So texturally, this is quite a bit different than the prior one. I seem to recall that one having more of like there was a real kind of burning heat, but also these citric notes bursting all over the place, and again that Heaven Hill minerality. And this is got elements of that, but they're all toned down, and particularly on the finish. Um, Again, you had that Heaven Hill note on the prior batch with this like lingering, really persistent stainless steel kind of note, and this one actually kind of disappears surprisingly. It does not. I mean, the heat is still there. That aspect of the texture is still there, but there's not an accompanying flavor that I'm really sensing. Yeah. So what can I say about this? Should you go out and stockpile bottles of batch B520? No, you should not be stockpiling any whiskey. Whiskey is for opening and drinking and enjoying. Just kidding. Do what you like. But this, in the way that A120 really grabbed me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I can't wait to try more of this stuff. Like, that was outstanding. This is just above average to pretty good. I'll tell you what, you say to me, all right, I'm going to give you a barrel proof bourbon at, 127 proof, and it's coming to you 12 years of age at $60, $70. I would have a hard time passing that up from anybody, particularly from a distillery I really like. So in that way, like I really, I would probably rate this like maybe a 7 out of 10. But again, there's batch to batch variation, and the first one was so good, and I was so convinced. Okay, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is where it's at, and if I had had this first, I might have just said, yeah, good, above average. Again, nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't. The last one was really special, and this one was less so. It still packs a wallop. It's still a ton of whiskey for your money, a ton of flavor, a ton of texture. It's just not transcendent. So do with that what you will. But we'll continue to buy these whenever I see them at a fair price. I will. It's always nice to have a bottle of barrel proof bourbon around for when you have people come over that are serious, and you can share that with some folks that are knowledgeable. So, and speaking of knowledgeable folks to share with, thank you all for continuing to give me your attention and time, and I'm very grateful for that. So, cheers.